We are a small group with a big ambition to transform shelter into healthy neighborhood. If there's any presentation, welcome. I hope you do see this many times. Many people in Ukraine require accommodation. Millions of people mentioned here are living in the shelters, not in comfortable living conditions. Many of them are still require those shelters, so the problem is huge, relevant, and it's sometimes really difficult to embrace it. Moreover, many people are now forced to return to occupied region by changes in humanitarian aid, so the shortage of supports to those who need some support still. So it's like a very complex problem, and we as a team, we cannot stay. I can use it. That's. So we do understand that this is a continuing problem. Evacuation is still relevant, so this number become even more bigger, and it's the feeling that we need to act now, but also think about future and long-term effect simultaneously to help vulnerable, but also to be able to create healthy neighborhood. And we do believe that we don't need to compromise. We believe that urgent action, urgent project do not exclude thinking long term. And moreover, we have an argument that is a prototype project. It's a project Kohati. I'm part of this collective, using this project, I explained what kind of quality it has that help us to think about this healthy neighborhood model. This is a very much vibrant, community-driven project that puts values in the focus. It's resilient, it's a necessity to act now and to help people to make a decision to flee, moved away from the cities under siege. And it's, as you can see, it's one of the core instruments is transformation of vacant building into their collective centers for people, while there is a big movement around allocating resources to find what is available, starting from vacant building, continuing with salvage material all around the world, funds, support, ideas, knowledge, platforms like Map in Ukraine. So this project enabled to allocate all of these resources and manage them to put it into their transformation and transform it. So that's, I think, is something that we can take as a lessons learned from this project. So refurbishment is a kind of comprehensive instrument. This is one of their accomplishments. Urgency does not need address. Urgency does not exclude long-term impact. And aesthetics is important because this is a communicative instrument to please vulnerable and to help them to understand that somebody cares about them. Third sectors, NGO, funds, organization not involved in private and municipal sectors, is a creative and capable institutions to solve this complex problem, and cross-border flows of resources also a kind of very innovative approach to deal with the challenges. So as an architect, I would like to a little bit describe what do we mean about comprehensive refurbishment. This is the instrument that solves many issues at once. It helps to create sense of belongings for IDPs, newcomers that looking for the shelter and require new space to stay, but also it's quite beneficial for the host community who might want to get rid of this vacancy that is annoying and disturbing. Building is an act of collective process. that enable people to meet each other, to communicate on the construction site. Of course, it's a quite effective approach to reduce emission, CO, emission. It's also, there are many other aspects, so I think I give you an idea why it is comprehensive. And we challenge ourselves as a group what kind of system we should develop to enable this project to scale up, to grow, and to really transform into like healthy neighborhood. What's the system we should develop? And I think this is a moment to And we've defined like at least 3 parts of our work. One is related more to spatial, and the second one to the communication, and the last is important elements is governance. Of course, it's not explicit list, but this is something we define as a kind of game-changing elements of the system. And I would like to pass the floor to my colleague Maryna.
So yes, as a good example of all this project and all the values which Anastasiya just described, we took this kindergarten in Kalush, which described the idea to use abandoned Soviet Union buildings or other abandoned buildings, but also with a really precisely chosen location, which will improve possibility to divide this old public building into some residential building, which will provide some flexibility for different program of privacy, some apartments, because we believe that everything starts with privacy, private space, the place where a person feels safe and can heal and grow. So we have kind of 4 types of different spaces, households. So first we start with privacy, and this program for apartments defined by households who should live there, different types of it. Only one person lives there, or family of 2 people, or family with kids, or older people, or disabled people. Also, we have some semi-privacy semi-privacy spaces, which it's spaces which shared between all the residents of this building. It's like corridors or shared kitchen and living room, because as our residential units are really, really small, maybe you want to have bigger kitchen or hang out with your neighbors. And also some utility rooms like laundry room, where you, or other spaces where you can fulfill some needs which also don't fit into your private space, but it can be kind of shared with public, not public, but your neighborhood. And more public space is like workshops, or a space where you can work together to build, to refurbish this space, so which will be more open for neighborhood. So this is our gradual transition from private space to neighborhood, where everything continues.
To build a healthy neighborhood, we need to build communication between different stakeholders, the neighbors, the citizens. The challenge for us was to think about the ways how we can connect different levels or scales. So we are starting from the individual, which is really important for us, as my colleague said, from the interviews of the Ukrainian people. We concluded that for them it's important to have the private space, which doesn't interfere with anybody, so they can have their safety and privacy. But also, that doesn't mean that we exclude the social integration. So it's important how that individual, when he goes out of the safe space, his private space, relates and connects and collaborates with the neighborhood and diagram that shows that all of the scales are interconnected with each other, and to build the sense of belonging and the sense of belonging and to add some value to the neighborhood and for the citizens to have some interest in the development of the community, we need to provide them with some spaces or connections that can be physical or mental, of course. We as designers can identify the existing spaces that can be transformed and used with minimal interventions and promote the connectivity and collaboration between citizens in terms of maybe making the urban garden, creating their green spaces where they can spend time in the nature, maybe interact in recreational spaces, also having some workshops and farmers markets maybe. Also we need to think about the inclusivity and making physical connections and making accessible all the spaces around the neighborhood. So we need to think about all modes of transportation and mobility. And the building in question is the prototype actually of how we can that we can later scale up and transfer to the bigger scales and use it as a model for activating or creating healthy neighborhoods. So on the scale of the neighborhoods, we can also think about how we can connect different neighborhoods and make them collaborate. On this map, it's identified some of the existing spaces that are maybe not in use but are available. So green space. 5 minutes. Okay, so I will be fast. Where did I stop? So yes, the existing spaces which are the opportunity to create connections and make some events and programs that will encourage citizens' collaboration. So it's important for the citizens to actually be involved in the growing and developing of the neighborhood so that the neighborhood can be self-efficient, safe, and resilient. Yeah. So I will just short. Yes, the Soviet buildings actually there is a great availability of them, and they are really strict and non-inspiring, and have a lot of unused spaces around them. Also, I see parkings and stuff that are actually not in use but have the potential to become something. And you want to add something?
Yeah, I think it's just a story about the ability to see valuable resources in ordinary heritage. So while it's quite like ordinary heritage, it's basically a standardized building from Soviet time. There are many of buildings like that in Ukraine, like maybe 20 we found, many in Kharkiv and Kryvyi Rih and other cities in Ukraine. It has so many nice qualities, like including this shape division into 3 units that we considered also as a symbolic idea for the social mix that we plan to create. So we try to really look at what is available from like using all of our energy, creativity and knowledge to take maximum from it. Green area, special characteristics and floor layouts and also materials, etc., etc.
I would just add that this idea can scale up to the city level, and we have on the map identified the these locations need further, deeper analysis, but there are quite a few of the possible locations for developing this kind of neighborhoods, and maybe it's worth to look at. On the side, the smaller map is also, we should mention that this income of IoT people can be beneficial to the community, which is important to not seclude the newcomers and the regular citizens. So this can also improve the economy, because there is this is a map of the companies in exile that are coming with the IDPs, and this is a great opportunity for the city. So we are also trying to create that connection between the citizens and the newcomers, so each can accept each other. So we are aware that there can be reservations. The idea is to include also the existing neighborhoods, which will work together in a whole.
2 minutes. For the most important part.
Interesting, very. That's going to be the fun part for me, not for you, architect. So governance. Who is responsible for municipal communal housing? Basically, national municipal governments are responsible for money, financing. National government gives the subventions to the municipal government. Unfortunately, in the reality of war, national government does not have this money. Municipal government should theoretically maintain the buildings in a proper in a proper function state. Unfortunately, municipal government does not have the money to do that. So we're coming to a focus. Basically, the things we're going to concentrate on NGOs and funds, since they're financing, creating, building, or refurbishing, and of course conclude agreements to use the buildings or the land with the local governments. So who's eligible for communal housing? Very shortly, people who need it, vulnerable people. Usually people who do not have an opportunity to have a stable income. Now, we're going to talk about cost trends, so basically the funding for the municipal housing, and I would want our non-Ukrainian colleagues to meet a word theoretically, because theoretically, by law, the cost trend by the residents has to go to the municipal special fund for the maintenance of the buildings, and then of course to the general fund, general budget. There's some overflow of the money, but unfortunately, the cost trend will bypass the special fund budget, and will go to the general budget, where this money will be basically lost. So there is absolutely no guarantee of cost trend return actually to the building, to the social housing block. Our proposal, or basically an optimal way to do it, is to direct the cost trend to the Council of Residents, who will then pay the municipal government into their special budget funding to maintain the building, and of course to pay for the utilities themselves. But this is very much a policy issue, and now we're talking from the individual level, and we will talk how the individuals can influence the policymakers a little bit later, but now let's look at what we can do right now, so how the cost trend could be paid right now. So if people are willing and able, of course, to pay, the system is basically this, not very hard, but not as easy as we would want to. So the tenant pays to the limited liability company that can then transfer the funds and money to the charitable foundation that actually maintains the building right now, since the municipal government cannot. If people are unwilling but still able, it happens. This is one of the challenges. We could influence them by what we call soft propaganda. So basically, peer pressure, maybe not ethical, but works. And there's another way, a barter of services, basically social work that people could do for a community. And social work is not only a fair way to pay for living, but also a fantastic way to strengthen communal ties. So here in the pictures we can see the team of a HUD project refurbishing the rooms. And how could people actually influence policymakers with political engagement? And what we as NGOs, as foundations could do to raise the political engagement. We could put posters in houses, we could invite official figures to the events, we could engage in social media, and many, many, many ways. And I'm done.
And this is a summary, so I don't want to add anything. But if this is all in place, then you could really move from like vacant buildings through contemporary houses to permanent collective housing as a new model also for collective housing in Ukraine. With the fund also, paying for the renovation, maintenance of the building, but also paying for new temporary necessary shelters that are also necessary. And the knowledge of reusing actually these high quality materials coming from, for instance, Switzerland, but also from IKEA, from other businesses, the knowledge of how to actually reuse them in a proper way, finding new aesthetics, these ideas could also then feed back into the rest of the world through these kind of events. So that's it for now.